To some curious news from the continent now, because the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has explained how the EU is seeking third country investment and migration deals with African countries like Tunisia and Egypt.
Does that sound familiar? Ursula von der Leyen added that these deals mean Europeans are the ones who decide who comes to the European Union and under what circumstances. Tough talk.
It should be said that these are deals being sought, not yet in effect. But of course, this all comes as the European elections near next month, and tensions are brewing across the EU over growing numbers of migrants.
Yes, well, President of the French anti-European Union group, Reprenons Le Contrôle, Charles-Henri Gallois, joins us now. Thank you very much for joining us, Charles-Henri. Really great to speak to you. Is this a change of tone from Ursula von der Leyen? And how do the French people view this?
I think you spotted right. I mean, there is a European election coming over, so they know that Europeans and French people in particular are quite fed up about mass immigration. So they are trying to say tough elements and to say we are going to do a Rwanda-like scheme. But if you look at the reality, the European Union they just passed the Asylum and Migration Pact, which will allow the EU to, let's say, share and allocate migrants between the different countries. And you have nothing to say otherwise. You will have to pay a 20,000 fine per migrant you refuse. And if you listen to the Commission members, Ms. Johnson, for example, you know that there are more or less 3 million migrants per year, legal migration within the EU. And she said that in the coming years, due to older population, we should lose 1 million more, so to have 4 million people coming each year. So I mean, the act and the reality are quite different from what von der Leyen is saying right now, just before the European elections.
Yes, there must be an election coming up close. Often politicians do this when the elections come up close. But I suppose if it is true that they are seeking these sorts of deals, it is quite a large smack of hypocrisy, really, because we've heard a lot of European leaders say that the British Rwanda scheme is a dreadful anti-European thing that goes against the values of the continent. And now, just before an election, they're sort of saying they'll do the same thing. Now, whether or not they deliver it is another question, but clearly it's saying one thing outside of election time and a different thing when they need to go to their own voters.
You're right. I think maybe they have seen the polls. I mean, there have been a poll in France regarding a Rwanda scheme, and there was something like 70% of French people that say, we agree with that kind of scheme, you know, it's not a big deal. And you had all the big mainstream media and all the Euro fanatics, such as Macron party, say it's inhuman, against human rights and so on. But I mean, the French people, they know what's good and what's not good. I mean, there are two solutions. You can, as you did, outsource this issue on the asylum process, or I think, which is even better, is just to expulse each illegal migrant and to say, I mean, if you want to ask for asylum, you can only do it in your origin country, and to do it, for example, in the French embassy of your country. So you don't have to outsource anything. But I mean, both solutions can work. And it's quite funny, as you said, to see all the ones that were criticizing this scheme. Now they say maybe we should do it, but at its EU scheme, it would be wonderful. When it was only a national scheme, it's awful.
Yes, it was Macron who said that it is against European values. I can't remember what platform he was on for that particular comment, but he said it. Interesting, Ursula von der Leyen saying Europeans are the ones who decide who comes to the European Union and under what circumstances. I mean, do the French people believe that?
No, I think they don't believe any word of it, because as I said, there is a Asylum and Migration Pact. And, you know, the EU, whether it's within the Schengen area or even it is a legal migration policy with the family scheme to have more migrants, when you look at the pact, it's quite different from what they say. I mean, maybe it's because it's before an election. Maybe as the Rwanda scheme for the Conservative Party, because they see that now Reform UK is going up. So, and if you look at the reality of the figures, legal migration has increased in the UK over the past year. So I think it's maybe just a reaction before election, and it's thanks to Reform UK here. And it's thanks to, let's say, Eurosceptic parties in the EU that they are now moving to this, but I don't think they will really act. They're just waiting for the election, and we will see what's next.
Well, thank you very much indeed for your time, Charles-Henri Gallois, who is president of the French anti-European Union group, Reprenons le Contrôle.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting that looking at all of these polls, the European Union Parliament is going to be not in a majority, but perhaps in the largest set of sort of parties of the right that has ever been elected to that parliament in this election. Now, of course, the parliament doesn't really get to say, doesn't have that much control. In fact, in the 2019 elections, it was none of the lead candidates of any political group that became the Commission president. The council just imposed Ursula von der Leyen. The parliament was able to vote yes or no, and no other choices.
The European Union, the European Commission is the beast with the power. But it'll be interesting if there are more and more Eurosceptics within the European Parliament. What does that look like for the future of the European Union? I mean, how much longer can they continue as is if the Parliament is packed with people who don't believe that the European Union should exist?